Okay, so today is Monday, September 5th, and this is the first morning session, the 9 a.m. session. Okay, so let us begin with the homage to the Buddha 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay, so last evening we dealt with the attainment of the first path and fruit, that is the path and fruit of stream entry. And so the disciple who has gone through this experience, going through the higher insight knowledges, then entering upon insight leading to emergence, then passing through the preparation, access, conformity, change of lineage, then reaches that moment, that one mind moment of the path of stream entry by which she penetrates the Four Noble Truths, directly sees Nibbana, cuts off 3 fetters, and then immediately after experiences for a couple of moments the fruition, that bliss of deliverance, temporary deliverance, and then goes back into the life continuum, then reverts and reviews the path that has been taken, the fruit that's been experienced, Nibbana, which has been directly known, and then possibly, but not necessarily, what defilements have been eliminated and what defilements remain. And so after going through that experience, the disciple emerges now as a sotapanna, one who has entered into the stream. Well, I think it's easier for me to write here rather than on the board. Oops. No. So a sotapanna. So the sota is the stream of the Dhamma, which is identified with the Noble Eightfold Path, and apana means entered or almost literally fallen into the stream. And the stream is explained as the Noble Eightfold Path, which means that this disciple has now acquired the true Noble Eightfold Path. Before that, what one has been practicing is, we can call this a preliminary path, a preparatory path, a path, maybe we could call it a replica of the Noble Eightfold Path, or a path that is in harmony with the Noble Eightfold Path. But for us, in our day-to-day life, we might say, I'm a Buddhist, I'm practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. Not really so. No, I'm speaking truthfully. I'm not joking. What we're practicing is a preparatory Eightfold Path, a path that's in harmony or conformity with the Noble Eightfold Path. But it's only when one becomes a stream enterer that one actually acquires the Noble Eightfold Path. Because once one enters into that path, that path inevitably leads to the ultimate goal. It's just like a person who's fallen into a stream will inevitably be carried by that stream downstream towards the end of the stream. And so the person who becomes the stream enterer is described in the text as one who has seen the Dhamma, known the Dhamma, realized the Dhamma, and now becomes independent of others in the Buddha's teaching. That means that when one becomes a stream enterer, one doesn't require guidance from anybody else, not even from the Buddha, in order to understand the Dhamma. One has seen the truth for oneself, one knows it, and it is just what remains is just a matter of cultivating the path that one has acquired. Of course, a stream enterer can still get guidance from more advanced disciples or from the Buddha, guidance in what particular factors they might have to practice in order to facilitate their progress. But they're not dependent even on the Buddha for the understanding of the Dhamma, because that person has seen the truth, knows the Four Noble Truths, has the path sort of in the palm of their hand. And it's said in the Ratana Sutta, even if that person is extremely negligent, sitting back, because somebody like a lay stream enterer can be somewhat, even have some bad habits. So they reach stream entry, and then they hear there's the Super Bowl game going on. And so their friends say, come, watch the Super Bowl. Or about their own interest, they're still interested in, Super Bowl is a football game, right? Yeah, okay. So, okay, so so they go to watch the Super Bowl and sitting back. They won't be drinking beer, but maybe drinking soft drink and tell the wife, put on make some popcorn and sitting there. So, taking life pretty easy. But it said even if that person is extremely negligent, they won't take an eighth existence. And so when one becomes a stream enterer, it means that at maximum, one has 7 more existences, 7 more lives. And that is the most sluggish kind of stream enterer, has 7 more lives. And all of those lives, or let us say, those lives, those future births, will never take place in the 3 miserable states of existence. That is, the stream enterer can never be reborn in hell, can never be reborn as an animal, can never be reborn in the realm of the afflicted spirits, also called the hungry ghosts, the Ugwe. So they'll be reborn only in the human realm or in the celestial realms, but never taking a lower rebirth. So the stream enterer knows cut off, the finished, for me, is the hell realm, the animal realm, the realm of afflicted spirits. And then the stream enterer is described as niyata, which means fixed in destiny. It doesn't mean that everything that's going to happen to them is predetermined, but fixed in destiny means that they are bound to reach ultimate liberation, and sambodhi parayano, that they have enlightenment as their final destination. So that person is bound to reach the final fruit in a maximum of 7 more lives. But it's said that there are 3 kinds of stream enterers. They're mentioned here in the manual. This is in section 38. Okay, well, I have it, it's in the guide to 38. I have it on page 359. That there are three types of stream enterers. There's the one who will be reborn 7 times at most in the human and celestial worlds. Then the second type is called kolankola, which means literally family to family. So this is one who takes birth in good families 2 or 3 times before attaining arhatship. So they're born, apparently this one is born back into the human realm, but in families where they have good conditions for learning the Dhamma, for practicing. And then there is the Ekabiji, one who will be reborn only 1 more time before attaining arhatship. So this one in their next life will reach arhatship. Okay, and then the stream enterer possesses what are called the 4 factors of stream entry, or of the stream enterer. Sotapatti Yanga. I'm going to stand again. So these 4 factors. First is unshakable trust in the Buddha. So their trust in the Buddha can never waver, can never be undermined. But throughout this life, their trust in the Buddha is absolute. And in future lives, as soon as they come into contact with, hearing about Buddhism, immediately that confidence and trust in the Buddha will be reawakened. And there's a story that comes in the commentaries, it's a little humorous, which illustrates this trust that a stream enterer has in the Buddha, this unshakable confidence. Okay, there was a lay disciple who was listening. One day he was listening to the Buddha preach, give a discourse, and while he was listening to the discourse, he achieved stream entry. And so, wow, he's now understood the Dhamma, realized the Dhamma, and then when the discourse is over, he pays his respect to the Buddha and goes back home. Okay, then Mara, Mara is the evil one, and he doesn't like anybody to be escaping his clutches. And apparently this lay disciple was a very prominent man in the town where he lived. So Mara was very worried because this man is influential, and he's going to tell all of his friends and colleagues about the Buddha and bring them all into the Buddha's fold. So he thought, I have to do something to sort of undermine the faith of that lay disciple. So Mara, you see, has the ability to assume any form at will. So Mara decided, how can I go about undermining the faith of that lay disciple? I know what to do. I'm going to take on the form of the Buddha himself. So Mara transforms himself into the form of the Buddha, and he comes to that lay disciple's home, and Maybe he rings the bell or knocks on the door, and the lay disciple comes to the door, and he opens the door, and he sees the Buddha is there. He thinks, this is a little strange. Like, the Buddha doesn't go around, except on alms round or on invitation. He doesn't go around sort of like calling on people, like on social visits. So he's a little puzzled, but still he thinks, okay, that's the Buddha, what can I do? So he bows down and says, welcome, Lord, please come in. He prepares a nice seat for him. Will you please sit down? Mara, in the Buddha's form, sits down. And then the lay disciple says, what can I do for you, Bhante? And I'll call him Buddha in quotation marks. The Buddha says, remember this morning you heard me give a sermon in which I said that all conditioned things are impermanent? He says, yes, when I heard that, I was really impressed. Then Buddha, in quotation marks, says, well, after I gave that sermon, I was reflecting a little about what I said, and I realized that, I should have qualified that a little. And said some things are impermanent, but, that there are other conditioned things which are permanent, like the self or the soul. Then the lay disciple realized, this can't be the Buddha. The Buddha doesn't say one thing and then change his mind and contradict the fundamental principles of his teaching. And so then the lay disciple realizes, this must be Mara in the guise of the Buddha. So he says, I know you, you're not the Buddha, you are Mara. And then when the lay disciple says that, Mara realizes, I've been discovered. Then he just disappears on the spot. Okay, so so there's unshakable confidence in the Buddha, unshakable confidence in the Dharma, unshakable confidence in the Aryan Sangha. We say that the monastic Sangha is just, I say it's the visible representation, or it should be, of the Aryan Sangha. But the actual object of refuge and of trust is the noble Sangha, the community of those who have reached the paths and the fruits. And then the fourth factor of stream entry, it said that one possesses those virtues dear to the noble ones, unbroken, untarnished, unblemished. And the commentaries explain that this refers to the 5 precepts, the 5 training rules. And this raises a question which I haven't seen really unambiguously answered. The question that comes to my mind, does this mean that a stream enterer can never break any of the 5 precepts? Now, what is said in the suttas, that there are 6 things that a stream enterer cannot do. I'm sorry, 5 things. No, 6 things. 6. One is the stream enterer cannot kill his or her mother, cannot kill his or her father. So matricide, patricide, impossible. Cannot kill an arahat. Cannot, with a malicious mind, wound the Buddha. The phrase malicious mind is used because the Buddha had a physician whose name was Jivaka, and one time the Buddha had some kind of health issue, and Jivaka had to do a little surgery on the Buddha, which caused him to bleed, but it was done with a beneficial mind, not a malicious mind. But this is somebody with a malicious mind injures the Buddha so that he sheds blood. And then the 5th, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th is with malicious intent to cause a schism in a harmonious Sangha. And then the sixth is to point to somebody other than the Buddha as being the supreme spiritual teacher. Okay, so these are six things that are said that the noble disciple cannot do. It doesn't say in the text that they cannot break the 5 precepts, but this is the traditional understanding. But I just sometimes wonder, like, suppose somebody has become a stream enterer, then in the course of that life they'll observe scrupulously the 5 precepts, but suppose, okay, they get reborn when they're a little kid, 3, 4-year-old kid, or maybe 4 or 5-year-old kid, maybe, like kids do, they'll tell a little lie to the parents, or playing outside, they might kill some bugs. Can a stream enterer do that, or will they naturally, always be scrupulous with regard to all precepts? That I don't know. But I haven't found in the text a statement that they absolutely cannot break the 5 precepts, but it's said that they are endowed with the virtues dear to the noble ones. Okay, now I think we've covered now the stream enterer, but now we're going to take the disciple up to the final goal. Probably most who reach stream entry will then become content with stream entry, since it's such a momentous achievement in itself. And so the Buddha says that, he has like hundreds and hundreds of disciples that he declares to be stream enterers. And when they pass away, the Buddha, Ananda, asks them, what is their future destination? What did they attain? What is their future destination? Then the Buddha says, so-and-so was a stream enterer. He passed away and he'll be reborn 7 more times at most in the celestial or human realms. Okay, so many, many disciples just remain at the level of stream entry. Okay, but now we're going to take a disciple who's going to continue on to the higher paths and fruits. And so now, to reach the next level, this is the stage of once returner. The disciple does not have to go back to the very beginning of developing the knowledges. One doesn't have to start again. One doesn't have to resume the knowledge of the distinction of mentality, materiality, the discernment of mentality, materiality. And one doesn't have to begin again with discernment of conditions, with understanding conditionality. One doesn't have to go through that comprehension in groups, because all of that has been well established. What one has to do is to go back and begin again from the mature stage of knowledge of rise and fall, knowledge of arising and passing away. And so one has to practice that series of insight knowledges through the knowledge of dissolution, all the ways up to the knowledge of equanimity about formations. Now, if the disciples' faculties and paramis, the accumulations of past virtues and merits and the strength of the spiritual faculties are not strong enough, when they reach knowledge of equanimity about formations, they'll remain at that level. Of course, as they go on practicing it, they'll still be strengthening the spiritual faculties, but there's like a new threshold that has to be passed in strength in order to reach the next path and fruit. But if the disciple has all of the requisite qualities, then again they'll go through knowledge, the equanimity about formations, then they'll enter into the insight leading to emergence, then they'll again go through preparation, access, conformity, and change of lineage. But now the change of lineage takes on a new significance. It's not changing from the state of a worldling into a noble one, but it's the change of lineage from that of a of a stream enterer to a once returner. So they go into the change of lineage, and then immediately following change of lineage comes the path of the once returner, which again takes Nibbana as its object, again penetrates the Four Noble Truths for one powerful mind moment, which shatters the very base of the defilements. And then it will be followed by, in the case of the, quote, ordinary practitioner, 2 moments of fruition, but one with sharp faculties who skipped the moment of preparation, that one will have 3 moments of fruition, after which there comes the drop back into the bhavanga, the life continuum. And again, to repeat what I said last night, the way almost all practitioners report their experience, like they don't distinguish, they don't discern, oh, I went through a moment of conformity, a moment of access, a moment of conformity, then, wow, that was quite wonderful, that change of lineage, then I distinguished the path and the fruit, but it all just comes like a bang experience. It's just that the way it's explained in the commentaries, using the Abhidhamma as a template for understanding what is actually taking place at the micro level, the microscopic level in that bang experience. They're saying that it's this. Maybe it's a little bit like, okay, if you take, the cowboy movie, I'm thinking of the old John Wayne or Gary Cooper cowboy movies, pretty much where I left off. Okay, when you're watching the movie, you see he takes the gun out from the holster and bang, bang, bang. But if you take the film and look at it frame by frame, you see, okay, now he has the hand, now he's putting the hand down, which again is a series of frames. Now he's taking the gun, now he's lifting the gun up, now he's pulled the trigger, and this frame, the gun is going bang, bang. This frame, the gun is going one bang, the next frame, another bang, the next frame, another bang. So when you look at it, when you look at it close up, inspecting the actual roll of film, it's a series of frames. But when you're looking at the movie, it's just bang, bang, bang. And so similarly, it's similar for the experience of the path and fruit. For the experience, for the practitioner, it's just a wow, bang, breakthrough experience. But the commentaries using this Abhidhammic analysis distinguish the different mind moments that take place within that experience. Okay, so this is the once returner. Now the once returner does not eradicate any new defilements, doesn't cut off any new fetters completely. But it's said in the canonical text that they weaken greed, hatred, and delusion. Or especially that they weaken sensual desire and ill will. So that the once returner will take only one more birth before, or will come, no, I should say, that the once returner will come back to this world only one more time and then make an end of dukkha. Okay, so this doesn't mean that the once returner has only one more existence, but that they will come back to this world only one more time. So in the analytical text, they explain that one who becomes a once returner can either come back to the human realm one more time and then achieve arhatship in that life, or they can be reborn in one of the sense sphere, desire sphere, heavenly realms, and then reach final liberation there. Or else they can be reborn in one of the heavenly realms, and then at the end of that existence come back to the human realm and achieve final liberation here. Okay, so the stream enterer and then the once returner are very similar in many respects, except that, in fact, the stream enterer with one more birth, and the once returner who's to come back to this world, as far as their births, the number of births go, are the same. It's just that the once returner has weakened the root defilements more than the stream enterer has done. Okay, now, like to complete the presentation, we're going to take the disciple who is going to go on further. So this is one who has, we say, the paramis, the past merits, to reach the next stage on the path. So again, this disciple goes back to the mature stage of arising and passing away. And so they start cultivating arising and passing away. They go through a whole series of insight knowledges till they come to equanimity about formations. And in that stage, their faculties get built up stronger and stronger until when they reach the threshold point, then that disciple passes through the insight leading to emergence, then reaches the path of the non-returner. And from that one path moment, again penetrating the Four Noble Truths, then coming through to the fruition, 2 or 3 moments of fruition, and then back to normal consciousness. And that path experience of non-returning cuts off 2 more fetters completely. So it cuts off all sensual desire. So the non-returner naturally then becomes celibate. I mean, the lay practitioner, the monastic, of course, has to be celibate by reason of vows, but naturally becomes celibate, and even no special, craving for any kind of food or any, special flavored foods, but without desire for pleasure through the senses. And then ill will or aversion is eradicated by the non-returner. So the non-returner can never get angry or upset with anybody, and never bear resentment towards others. So they're free from sensual desire and ill will. And sensual desire and ill will, those are the two fetters that keep us tied to the sensual or the sensory realm of existence. So the reason why we come back to the human realm or fall into the lower realms or even take rebirth in the sense sphere heavens is because of sensual desire is what keeps us here. Ill will, of course, is a secondary fetter, which if it's acted upon, will lead further downwards. And so the non-returner cuts off sensual desire and ill will, and therefore they don't take rebirth anymore into the sense sphere of existence, but their rebirth takes place in the fine material realm, or the form realm. And there's a special group of heavens in the form realm which is sort of reserved for non-returners. These are called the Suddhavasa, which means the pure abodes or the pure dwellings. So only non-returners can be reborn there. And when they're reborn in the pure abodes, then they achieve arhatship in the pure abodes. So if you do a lot of meritorious deeds, then you get reborn up in the form realm, and then you think, I want to enter the pure abodes. You come to the pure abode, and then there's sort of a guardian at the gate, and he'll say, like, please show your non-returner pass. Like you have these name tags. Maybe they have the electronic equipment, so they swipe it. So, you might forge a counterfeit, and the guardian will swipe it. It doesn't register on my computer. Oh, I did it, sir, I did it. Swipes it again. No. Yeah, so to be admitted to the 5 pure abodes, one has to achieve the state of a non-returner. And then I think the 5 pure abodes are differentiated according to the level of the jhana. Well, no, I think it's differentiated according to the dominant spiritual faculty of the non-returner. Any Abhidhamma experts here? I'm a little vague about that point. But I remember there are 5 types of non-returners which are mentioned in the manual. Oh yes, and this is actually a point where I hold, maybe you call it a heretical opinion, heterodox opinion. Okay, the 5 classes of non-returner. First I'll mention the names, then I will give the orthodox explanation, then I'll explain why my opinion is different. Okay. The first one is called Antara Parinibbāyi, which means literally one who attains Nibbana in between. The commentary explains that to mean one who is reborn in the pure abodes and then achieves final Nibbana or liberation, arhatship, before reaching the midpoint of the lifespan in the pure abode. The second is called Upahacha Parinibbāyi. You find these Pali words in the manual, which means one who attains Nibbana upon striking or hitting. And it explains this who reaches arhatship after passing the midpoint of the lifespan in the pure abodes. The third is called asankhara, or asankharika parinibbāyi. Yeah, asankhara parinibbāyi, which means one who attains the final liberation without effort, or without exertion, without a lot of exertion. The fourth is called sasankhara parinibbāyi, which means one who achieves final liberation with strong exertion. And then the fifth is called udang soto akanita gami, and that is one who passes from one higher realm, from one pure abode to the other, going upwards till there's actually no sex differentiation there, till this one reaches the highest pure abode and then attains final liberation there in the highest pure abode. So that one goes upstream from one pure abode to another over several lives and then reaches final liberation in the highest. Okay, the reason why it seems that the Theravada commentators give this explanation is because they reject the idea of an antarabhava, that is, an intermediate state. But now if one looks at the 5 kinds of non-returners, I have them on page 362, if the explanation of the first 2 were correct, it would mean that there are probably only 3 real kinds of non-returners. Because the first 2 would simply be distinguished. Let us say, if one takes this explanation, there would not really be 5 distinct types, because the 3rd and 4th type would have to be applying to the first 2. So there would be one who achieves the final goal in the first half of the life, would have to do so either with little exertion or with strong exertion. And one who generates or reaches the final goal after passing the midpoint would also have to do so either with strong exertion or with little exertion. And so we wouldn't really get 5 distinct types, but the first 2 would just be distinguished according to whether they make strong exertion or little exertion. And this, as I said, this explanation rests on a rejection of the idea that there is an intermediate state between one existence and another. But I found some evidence in the text, if we go to the sutta text, which suggests that there is an intermediate state. I don't want to get into the arguments about it now, but if we take that position that there is an intermediate state between the passing away as a human non-returner and the arising in the pure abode, during which we could say the spirit of the non-returner is still in this intermediate state, then it's possible that within that state they reach final liberation and thus don't go on to any rebirth, even in the pure abode. And so in that case, the antara parinibbāyi would be one who reaches liberation following the literal meaning in between, in that intermediate phase. And then upahacha, the one who reaches liberation having struck or having hit, would be the one who reaches liberation almost immediately after taking birth in the pure abode. And then we would get the distinction, one who reaches with one who reaches liberation with little exertion or with much exertion would apply to one who reaches the final goal during that course of that life, depending upon whether they have to make a strong effort or can achieve it with just a little effort. So in that way we would get a genuine fivefold distinction. But anyway, this is a rather moot point, and I don't want to get lost in these details. In any case, we have the third noble disciple, or the third one who reaches the third path and fruit is the non-returner. Okay, now suppose now this non-returner has all of the potentials for going further. So again, this person goes back to the stage of the insight knowledge, the strong insight of arising and passing away, continues through the sequence of insight knowledges till they come to equanimity about formations. Then all of the faculties come into play, they build up their strength, they're supported by the previous stores of merits, and so that person goes through insight leading to emergence. Then they reach the fourth path, the path of arhatship, by which they eradicate all of the remaining defilements. These will be expressed usually as the 5 subtle fetters. That is, 1, 2, 3, 4. The attachment, one is called rupa raga, the attachment to form. This would be the desire for rebirth in the form realm of existence. Or it can be the attachment to the form sphere jhanas and desire for rebirth in the form realm of existence. Okay, the next is arupa raga, which means attachment to the formless. This would be attachment to the formless meditative attainments, the non-material attainments, and the subtle desire for rebirth in the immaterial realm of existence. The next subtle fetter is conceit, which is probably, it's not the gross conceit that thinks, oh, I'm better than they are, I am number one, I'm the best. But this is just a very subtle, residual notion of I am that's sort of hovering in the background there. So that is eliminated. And then the next is a very subtle tendency towards restlessness or excitation of the mind. And then the fifth, which is actually the 10th fetter, is ignorance, the most fundamental of all defilements. So that fourth path attainment, that one mind moment, eradicates permanently these 5 fetters. And then one passes through the fruition experience, where one enjoys for a few moments the fruit of arhatship, and then sinks into the life continuum, emerges, and reviews the path, the fruit, nibbana, possibly the defilements eliminated, but now there's no review, no possibility of reviewing defilements that remain, because none remain. Okay, so that takes us through the fourth path and fruit by which one comes out as an arhat. And arhats are distinguished into 2 main types in the Nikayas. One type, I think I put this, Okay. Yeah, these are the two kinds of arhats. They're distinguished in Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 70, but it also mentions several other places in the text. One is called the Ubato Bhaga Vimutta. This is a person who is said to be liberated in both ways. So here is the description. This person, it said, contacts with the body. This is in a way a figurative expression, but I take it to be like such a powerful experience that it's almost as if they're touching with the body. He contacts with the body and abides in those liberations that are peaceful and immaterial, transcending forms, and his taints, that's the asavas, are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. Okay, so this is a person, the meditator, who's able to achieve the formless or immaterial meditative attainments by which they transcend, in meditation, they transcend the sphere of form. So it's one aspect of their liberation is by the power of samadhi, they're liberated from the experience of form. And then by the power of wisdom, they are liberated from the defilements. And so in this way, they are called liberated in both ways, or liberated from both perspectives, from both angles. Okay, the other type of arhat is called the Panya Vimutta. This is the person who is liberated by wisdom. And so the definition of this person is that this one, this meditator, does not contact with the body and abide in the liberations that are peaceful and immaterial, transcending forms. But his taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. So this one is called liberated by wisdom. So this person might be an attainer of the 4 jhanas. So they could attain the first, second, third, fourth jhana, but they don't go, because those 4 jhanas are the 4 attainments pertaining to the form realm. But they don't go beyond the 4 jhanas to achieve the formless or immaterial attainments. And so they can have any of the 4 jhanas, and they destroy the defilements by seeing with wisdom, or, according to the commentaries, they introduce what I mentioned yesterday. This could also include the Sukha Vipassaka, the arhat to achieve, the person who achieves arhatship by following the path of dry insight without attainment of the mundane jhanas, but simply by cultivating all of the stages of insight knowledge on the basis of momentary concentration. So we have 5 kinds of arhats liberated by wisdom, the attainers of the one or another of, or all 4 jhanas, and the dry insight meditator. Okay, before we end this session, though it's 10 o'clock, but I want to go through the different groups of defilements which are abandoned by the 4 paths. And I used as the basis for this the section in the manual on the classification of the defilements. So that was, it's called the Compendium of the Unwholesome, which I have it on page 265, starting on page 265. So here we have, if you look under the taints. These are the asavas. We have the four taints, the taint of sensual desire, the attachment to existence, wrong views, and the taint of ignorance. And then the four floods and the four bonds are enumerated exactly in the same way as the four taints. So we put them all together. And so the taint, flood, and bond of sensual desire is eliminated by the third path. Views is eliminated by the first path, and attachment to existence and ignorance are eliminated by the fourth path, the path of arhatship. Okay, then in section 6 we have the four bodily knots, the knots of covetousness, ill will, adherence to rites and ceremonies, or clinging, wrong grip, I would say, of rites and ceremonies, and the knot of dogmatic belief, this alone is the truth. Okay, so the knot of covetousness, which is actually equivalent to craving or greed, is eliminated by the path of arhatship. Ill will is eliminated by the third path, the path of the non-returner. And the adherence to rites and ceremonies and this dogmatic belief, those are two modes of views. The view that performing certain rites and ceremonies is sufficient for liberation, and the grip of a certain view and saying this view is the exclusive truth. So those are two types of views, and so they are eliminated by the first path. Okay, then we come to the four types of clinging. Okay, now clinging to sensual pleasures, this is a little tricky, because usually we think of clinging to sensual pleasures as identical with sensual desire. And so one should think that would be eliminated by the third path. But the commentary of Visuddhimagga says that according to the text, all greed is comprised here under sensual desire, including greed for the fine material and immaterial states. And so for that reason, it's said that clinging to sensual pleasures is eliminated by the fourth path, the stage of arhatship. And then the other types of clinging to views, to rites and ceremonies, and to a doctrine of self, those are actually three different forms of views or manifestations of the mental factor of views. So they are eliminated by the first path, the stage of stream entry. Then we come to the hindrances. So these are the familiar 5 hindrances, but then ignorance is also added because in some suttas, ignorance is spoken of as a hindrance, not to jhana, but to liberation. So of the hindrances, the hindrance of sensual desire, ill will, and worry are eliminated by the third path. Actually, this should really be remorse. Is better. These are eliminated by the third path, by the stage of non-returning. Then sloth and torpor, or dullness and drowsiness, and restlessness are eliminated by the path of arhatship. Doubt, which is doubt about the truth of the Dhamma, that's eliminated by the first path. And ignorance is eliminated by the fourth path, because only the path of arhatship completely removes ignorance. Then there are 7 anusayas, latent dispositions, latent tendencies. Okay, so sensual lust is eliminated by the 3rd path, attachment to existence by the 4th path, aversion by the 3rd path, conceit, as we just saw, is eliminated by the stage of arhatship. Then wrong views and doubt, those are the 2 of the first 3 fetters, so they're eliminated by the 1st stage, the stage of stream entry, and ignorance is eliminated by the 4th path, the path of arhatship. Okay, then we have 10 fetters. Actually, I used the 10 fetters of the sutta model when I explained the 4 stages, so this we'll just go over them again. So the view of self, doubt, and clinging to rites and ceremonies, these 3 fetters are eliminated by the 1st path. Then sensual lust and ill will or aversion are eliminated by the 3rd path. And then the 5 subtle or higher fetters are eliminated by the path of arhatship. Then the Abhidhamma uses a different scheme of fetters. I never understood why, but they do. So we have sensual lust, which is eliminated by the 3rd path, attachment to existence by the 4th path, aversion or ill will by the 3rd path, conceit by the 4th path, wrong views, adherence to rites and ceremonies, and doubt, those 3 eliminated by the 1st path, envy and avarice or miserliness, which are connected in a subtle way with ill will, so they are eliminated by the 3rd path, and ignorance is eliminated by the 4th path. Then there's the 3 basic defilements: greed, hatred, and delusion. So greed is eliminated by the 4th path, hatred by the 3rd, delusion by the 4th. I'm going to make this file available to everybody, by the way. So I don't have to write all of these lists. Then conceit by the 4th path, wrong views and doubt by the 1st, sloth or dullness by the 4th path, since even the non-returner can have moments of dullness and drowsiness. Then restlessness by the 4th path, and then shamelessness and fearlessness of wrong, which are said to accompany all unwholesome mental states. So those are eliminated by the 4th path. Then we come to the 12 unwholesome chittas. This takes us back to our first Abhidhamma seminar. So we have 8 chittas rooted in greed. So the 4 associated with wrong view, this is your test. What stage eliminates those 4 chittas? Special reward for those who get it right. Yeah, just say the number of the path. Okay, so these are eliminated by the 1st path. Okay, the 4 chittas rooted in greed, disconnected from wrong view, will be eliminated at what stage? All of my students who came to the 4 Abhidhamma retreats, raise your hand if you have an answer. 3rd? No. This is greed dissociated from wrong view. I can't hear you.
は。
Wait.
I'm thinking that it's number 2. No, because of what sensual lust or desire.
No. The first? No. The first path has eliminated the 4 associated with wrong view. Okay, now I don't have any more wrong views. I'm a stream enterer. I've cut off wrong views. Allison, stand up and say it loud and clear.
Allison.
Okay, that is a Dhamma student. The 4th. I think, Min, you were thinking of the non-returner who has eliminated sensual desire. But even the non-returner still has the subtle attachment to existence. And so even the non-returner still has that attachment to existence. That is a subtle form of greed. It's not the greed of, I want, that figure in the film Wall Street. Greed is good. It's not that kind of greed, but it's a subtle attachment. So it's only the arhat that eradicates that greed. Okay, the 2 chittas rooted in ill will or aversion. Okay, so that's clearly the 3rd. The 1 citta connected with doubt. So everybody gets that right first. And the 1 citta connected with strong restlessness. Right, the 4th. Okay, now a trick question. Do any of these paths eliminate the wholesome cittas? This is a question that will test the real Abhidhammikas from those who have just been drifting along. How?
Because wholesome cittas only occur, they create karma in the
Okay, that's very good. I want you to say that into the microphone so it gets recorded. Give him the microphone.
In the Abhidhamma system, the word wholesome refers to creating karma. So since the 4th path, there's no more karma created, the 4th path, in a sense, removes wholesome.
Right, exactly. So does it mean that the arhat doesn't have any good cittas at all? So what happens to them?
They don't create karma.
Okay, there's a special word for them used in the Abhidhamma. I'll need you to use the microphone.
Oh, Kiriyo Chitta.
Oh, this is somebody who studied the Abhidhamma. Yeah, I could tell she knows the Abhidhamma. So these 2 both are seriously studying the Abhidhamma. Those of you who couldn't give the answer have to go back and start cracking the books. So I intended this as a trick question. I expected people to say, no, the arhat still has the wholesome cittas. The arhat cittas, they'll still be called beautiful cittas. We use the word sobhana, beautiful, but technically they are not called wholesome or kusala, because kusala cittas create wholesome karma, and the arhat doesn't create any more karma. So technically they are called the kriya or kiriya cittas. You have to go back to chapter 1 and look at the table of the chart of the cittas. Yeah, you'll find these. I have it on the chart, table 1.1 on page 28. we have the sense sphere, beautiful chittas. So we have the 8 wholesome chittas. Those are the good chittas in a non-arahat. Then we have the sense sphere, functional chittas. Those are the chittas that are like the wholesome chittas, but not creating karma. So those are the beautiful chittas of the arahat. And then we have the fine material sphere chittas. These are the chittas, and then under that category we have the 5 fine material sphere functional chittas. Those are the chittas when the arahat enters into the jhanas. So he can enter into the jhanas, but those chittas don't create any more karma. And then he could also enter into the formless or immaterial meditative absorptions, and those will be the immaterial sphere functional chittas. Okay, I think we're going to need now a 10-minute break. We'll have a shorter break. I hope 10 minutes should be enough. And please try to, I haven't been persistent enough. Did you have your hand up? Okay. So we'll take a 10-minute break and come back at 10:30.